For my final project, I decided to tackle the topic of dealing with mental illness while living in America. I chose this topic because it is a topic that hits very close to home for me. I have struggled with depression my entire life. This has made every aspect of my life extremely difficult, especially my school life and my work life. Throughout my entire school experience, teachers always saw me as lazy because I wasn't handing in work, or I seemed very apathetic in class and distracted. Little did they know I was struggling with depression, and they didn't really know how to handle it and weren't really prepared how to deal with students that weren't enthusiastic to learn. So I want to start with the mental health statistics from 2020. 9.7% of America's youth has severe major depression. This number is higher among youths who identify with more than one race at 12.4%. Even before COVID-19 happened, almost 20% of United States adults experienced mental illness. However, during the pandemic, this number increased by 1.5 million Americans. Over 8 in 10 Americans who had access to mental health screenings scored extremely high in severe symptoms of anxiety and depression. Adults experiencing suicidal ideations is at an all-time high in America, with 178,000 Americans suffering from this. 37% of these Americans have reported thinking about suicide almost every day in September of 2020. Suicidal ideations in America's youth are also at an all-time high, with over half of 11 to 17-year-olds, 77,470 youths, reporting having thoughts of self-harm and or suicide. And the LGBTQ plus youth makes up 27,980 of the youths that are afflicted with mental illness. So all of these statistics of mental health worsening in America, you would think that there would be better sources of treatment. However, there is actually we are very much lacking treatment here in America. So 80% of America's youth with severe depression don't receive any kind of mental health treatment. And only 27% of America's youth that actually receive treatment report getting consistent care. And 24% of American adults with mental illness have reported unmet need for treatment. 10.8% of Americans with mental illness are uninsured, thus making it much more difficult to receive treatment. Unfortunately, mental health treatment is extremely expensive here in America. So a simple therapy session without insurance can cost between $65 to $250 an hour. And depending on your insurance policy, you can have as low as like a $15 copay, maybe less, but you could also be paying more. However, a lot of people with mental illness, in order to truly treat their mental illness, need far more advanced treatment, such as either inpatient, partial hospitalization, or intensive outpatient programs. And these more intensive programs can range from $300 to $400 a day. And for these programs, these are very intensive programs. So inpatient, you're there every single day. For partial hospitalization, you're there about 5 days a week. And in intensive outpatient, you're there about 2 to 3 times a week. So, and they expect you to do it for about 2 to 3 months. So it's extremely expensive, and it's very difficult to pay for. So this leads me into mental health in schools. So mental health obviously affects a student's ability to do well in school. So mental health issues can cause chronic absences, failure to complete work, being distracted in class, seeming apathetic, and many other things. So there are many students who struggle with mental illness that are undiagnosed, are seen as lazy or bad students, and tend to never get intervention from their teachers. A lot of this is where the big idea of like the high school burnout comes in and kind of stigmatizes those kids struggling with mental health issues that are seen as lazy because they can't quite keep up with the work that their classmates are. It's difficult for people to realize that students struggling with mental health, it's very hard for them to care about an essay or reading a book when you're fighting against your own mind to be alive the next day. So students struggling with mental health do not get enough credit, and they truly deserve more. So mental health in the workplace, American adults in the workforce with mental illness are actually afraid to express their concerns about their mental health to their employer out of fear of jeopardizing their jobs. This is due to the stigma of mental illness and how employers see mental illness as a disability and something that they don't want around, instead of just a person who's struggling. So with all the stigma, all these employees are very much less likely to actually seek help. And there are also no programs that allow employees to effectively seek consistent treatment because in order to seek the intensive treatment that would be most beneficial for their mental illness, would jeopardize their jobs. So the idea of job security is extremely important for those struggling with mental health. So what I believe can change is that since COVID-19, I've realized that America has had this very interesting, feigned sense of sympathy for mental illness. And on one hand, you see all these commercials for BetterHelp, telehealth, and all of these therapy things that are on Zoom or on the phone, and it's amazing, and it's something that's extremely impressive that we could do with technology for mental health. However, if America truly cared about mental health, they would actually they actually haven't done anything to grant access to better care. So I have found that there is currently one federal or nationwide program in place called SAMHSA. And so basically this is a addiction rehab and mental health rehabilitation initiative that is nationwide, and the website is included at the end of my PowerPoint. It's very interesting, and it's awesome to see these steps in the right direction with mental health. However, I do believe that more needs to be done than just making an initiative around the United States. I believe that schools need to start prioritizing students instead of just the work that they're producing, because they are not, yes, they are there to learn, but they are not just what they produce. And I also believe that in schools we need to find a way for early intervention with mental illnesses and how to kind of spot mental illness in struggling students and what we can do to help struggling students, and put programs into place that allow social workers or licensed therapists to be in the schools and kind of help the students who are clearly struggling. And I believe that there should also be more funding to programs that can give Americans more consistent care without being afraid of losing their jobs. I believe that a mental health sabbatical is a very real thing that should exist, because tending to your mental health is extremely difficult, especially if you've been thinking that way for so long. You have to pretty much retrain your brain to think a different way. So it's incredibly difficult. And living with with a mental illness in America is very difficult, because they acknowledge your existence, but they don't really seem to want to get to the root of the problem or fix it. So, yeah. But thank you for listening. Here's my Works Cited page. Thank you.